Hi, I'm Amber Anderson, and welcome to The Next Come Up. Today, we're interviewing former Representative Bruce Franks on his Academy Award-nominated documentary, St. Louis Superman, on MTV this Monday at 9 p.m. All right, so how's it going, Bruce?
It's going very well. How you doing?
I cannot complain. I mean, it's a quarantine, but we're alive, we're healthy.
Right.
It's the little things at this point. After watching that documentary, I just feel so honored to interview you.
Thank
So,
you so much for having me.
oh, absolutely. So, you ready to get started?
So,
The first thing is the title, St. Louis Superman. How did that come
mhm.
about?
Yeah, St. Louis Superman was given to me just from the community and family. Just being there for everybody, showing up, investing that power into the people, knowing when to wield the power, when to hold back. Um, it was just kind of like a collection of things. And once they started calling me that, I just ran with it.
Yeah, it's not a bad name to have. Like I'll just wear the S on my chest and keep it moving.
Right, right, right.
All right, so from the documentary, you
Mhm.
mentioned that rap battling pays more than being a representative.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, what was your best rap battling night? Like, how much does a really good rap battling night even potentially pay?
Oh, there are battle rappers that get paid $50,000, to perform for 30 minutes.
Just to
And
put somebody's
so,
face in the sand.
yeah, that's it. It's a real talk. And so, like for me, I think the highest I've been paid, I'm not to that $50,000 level yet, but I mean, getting paid six, $7,000 for 9 minutes is not bad work, So,
Yeah, it's worth dusting off that thesaurus.
uh huh.
All right, so I wanted to jump into the details of the documentary. After Mike Brown died, what made you decide that you would be one of the ones to stand up for your community and what was happening around you?
I think the fact that before August 9th, 2014, I was not an activist. I wasn't a protester. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I was woke. I was going through the regular everyday like most folks that come from where we come from. But August 9th, 2014, when Michael Brown was killed, my son was turning 1 years old. And for Mike Brown's body to be there 4.5 hours, for it to have the impact in our city and the entire country the way it did, something drew me out there. And when I went out there, I didn't know why I was going out there. I didn't know what I was going to accomplish while I was there. I felt the need to just show up. And a lot of it was trial and error, figuring it out. But we got heard. We made an impact. And after that, we began to organize and just try to figure things out piece by piece.
That's amazing. How did you come up with the genius idea to create a bill that labels violence being a public health epidemic and obtaining funding for your affected district?
So the CDC had already made violence as a whole a public health epidemic, but we didn't get that concentration on the youth, the young
Okay.
people who were being impacted most, especially in communities of colors, black and brown communities, as well as that concentration on gun violence. And so one of my colleagues actually brought the idea to me and was like, hey, I know you care about this. How about what does this sound like to you? And so I took that bill and I combined a few things with naming August 7th, Christopher Harris Day, after my brother who was killed in 1991, as a day of advocacy for youth violence and youth gun violence. And so that's where it came from. And then the idea for the funding and coming up with the funding was just me seeing what was missing out of our community and where we need to allocate those resources. And at the time, I was able to, help provide funding for some much needed communities, including mine.
Um, how do you educate the representatives around you who are white Republicans? How do you educate them about the violence that your community is seeing against Black people and in Black communities?
I did more than talk to them. I took them to my community.
Oh,
I
wow.
set up I set up these tours where I would go to a conservative Republican district, stay there for a couple days, meet people, talk to people, and the reciprocal was that they came to my district. And two instances, two of my Republican colleagues got the real life experience of what I deal with every day.
Something
One,
went down. Yeah.
oh yeah, one my god brother was shot leaving the club, and I got the phone call while Representative Stevens was in the car with me, and Representative Tate was with me when they called me and told me that my godson had been killed, and he actually went to the scene, and he was there, and he saw a bunch of stuff that he'd never seen before.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, did you have opposition or protesting, I should say, when you invited them to come to the community? Were there a few that you invited and maybe just a few who decided they would show up? Or was it pretty?
Oh no, there was no there wasn't gonna be no protest because it was me. If it was somebody else, I don't know.
Right. They're like,
But
sure, we'll come. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The,
no, it was pretty. It was something interesting that people were really wanted to get into. This idea that you can go to two different communities and learn these communities. And I wanted to kick it off. I learned it from my freshman bus tour as a legislator. We went around the entire state, all these places that I didn't even know existed before I was a representative. And so I kind of wanted to carry that on, but take it a bit deeper. Even if I went into places who didn't necessarily want me there, it's all
right.
good.
How much support do you get from those you've battled with? Do you receive support from the constituents as a whole now that you have been elected, and also from your fellow rappers and friends in the community?
I'm no longer a state representative.
Okay, you officially stepped down.
Yeah, I stepped down. I actually stepped down last year after last year's session
Yeah,
to concentrate on my mental health
right,
and get myself together. And so I spent that time then, supporting and pushing for the person who came after me to replace me to make sure that there was adequate representation. And, we got an amazing person to fill my shoes per se. And so, yeah, but from the rap community, I had a lot of support and still have a lot of support to this day for the work that I'm still doing.
did you have a lot of people in your own community who were opposed to you being in office before you got elected?
Oh yes, the people I ran against for one,
Right,
they come from my community. They had a real stronghold on the community and still do in certain aspects to this day. They have been entrenched. The powers that be, the status quo. When you come in and you shaking things up and you don't necessarily fit the mold and you're not your average politician or average elected official, change is hard for people. And
right,
so but changes it's inevitable too. So that's something they
absolutely.
had to deal with.
At this point, do you feel respected by the majority white Republicans still in office?
There are only one or two that I just absolutely can't stand, but for the rest of them, there's a level of respecting perspectives, right? We might not agree. We will never agree on certain issues,
Mhm.
but we move forward on the things that we could agree on. But even in that disagreement, even in those arguments and those battles, I felt like I always got that respect from majority of those Republican colleagues.
So I read that it is legal in, I think, 48 is what the article said, out of 50 states to record the police. So my question is, for our viewers, is it legal to film the police?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. I would advocate to always, even in those states, those two states that they say is
Right.
not legal. They say that the unjust law isn't a law at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our duty to push back on that because we have to get the proof. We have to get we have to get to the bottom. And it's not the same as having a police camera that they can cut off or they can manipulate and maneuver. It's raw footage. And so, yes.
You spoke about visiting memorials and vigils and funerals all around the country. How do you feel like that impacted your personal peace?
Heavily. It's re-traumatizing. A lot of people don't go to that many funerals in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And for those people that have gone to, that significant amount of funerals, like those special ones to them, they remember those dates, right? They remember the date that it happened. They remember the date of the funeral. So imagine having 200 days out the year where you're constantly reminded of somebody that passed away. I quickly realized in the last couple of years that wasn't normal. The stuff that I was going through, the stuff that I was experiencing, and the stuff that other folks in my community were experiencing. So it's been that was a heavy piece. That was a heavy part of it, especially being so personally tied to them.
Yeah. What compelled you to attend all of them at the risk of, it being so heavy on your personal self?
Mainly because it was my normal. I never thought about it. It was that's what you do. A close person dies, you have a memorial, you have a candlelight, and you go to the funeral, you go to the wake.
Oh, these were all people that you knew personally?
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. I thought they were like your constituents and your community, but these were all your personal. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Even the ones in the community, like this is the community I grew up in.
Right.
So we're tight knit. We know each other. We know everybody. And so, yeah, it was all personal, but it was like a robot. You just keep going.
Has the COVID pandemic, do you know how much it's affected the crime rate in your district?
Oh, no. Crime is still happening. Black folks still getting killed. Gun violence doesn't know social distancing. Gun violence hasn't slowed down. And so it's just so hard. Like when you watch the news and they say, oh, well, we haven't had any school shootings, which is amazing and that's great. But gun violence is still happening in Black and brown communities. While they're forced to be at home, while they're forced to be in their communities that present these same challenges and barriers. So,
what does King want to be when he grows up?
King wants to be a YouTuber. That's what he tells me all the time. He wants to be a YouTuber.
It's really popular now. Yeah.
Yeah. But he also likes singing and dancing, and he likes performing Hamilton. So, it's the sky's the limit for him.
All right. Also, I have to know what kind of regimen your mom is doing, because when I saw her, I was just like, wait, that's his mother? That's not his sister, his girlfriend? Like, what is happening right now? What is she eating? How much water is this woman drinking? Like, what is happening? Please.
I don't know. I don't know what she's doing. My mom is she's been naturally beautiful my whole life. She's she's the greatest woman to walk the face of this earth. And she's just, my mom, my best friend. So I don't know what she's doing though. I just hope I continue to have those same genes. So.
Yeah, those are definitely good genes to have. And finally, what advice can you provide the youth, because of everything that they're going through right now, that they could possibly change for their outcome for the future, until further laws are implemented and things have changed?
To our youth, so many of them have wonderful ideas and great ideas and want to push forward. It's just about them just having the power to do it and understanding that it's okay to take those small steps to do whatever it is you see fit to change. People would tell you it's not your turn. As young people, they tell us that. And usually if they tell you it's not your turn, then it's probably your turn. And my advice for the older people watching the younger people and around the younger people, move out the way. Let young people lead. Let young people fight. Don't talk down to them, talk to them and hear them out.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the Next Come Up. It was an honor to talk with you today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
All right. Talk soon. Stay safe. Oh my gosh.
Right, you too.
You're living in a crazy time on top of a crazy time.
Right. You make sure you stay safe.
Thank you. All right. St. Louis Superman, airing this Monday, 9 p.m. on MTV.
Something happened on August 9th when he was born.
What happened?
On August 9th,
18-year-old Michael Brown was gunned down in Ferguson, Missouri.
This is my time to stand up. I've been to 167 funerals. That eats at you. If you would have told me 4 years ago I'd be a state representative, I would have cussed you out.
You say, Mom, I'm doing this to change the world for my kids.